back to another episode of the Fritts Show. I am fired up. You know me. I'm an OU fan. I am fired up. You see it above me. Yes, this is a real score above me. Alabama 3, Oklahoma 24. Welcome in, everybody. The show is to my left. We're doing a college football playoff outlook. What if poll? Muffins. Stick around for muffins if you don't know what that is. It's a fun part of the show. But we're going to start with Alabama, Oklahoma. Because how else could I not start with Alabama, Oklahoma? I mean, this was a thorough beatdown of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I think I speak for all of us, except for Alabama fans, that when we get a thorough beatdown of Alabama, we all want to celebrate. We all want to celebrate. And hey, look. Hand up. I'm openly celebrating a beatdown of Alabama. I can do that. I'm an OU fan. If it was another team openly beating down Alabama thoroughly, I would be celebrating it as well, because we've lived in a world too long where Alabama's had too much success. And quite frankly, I'm glad they're not having success right now. And I relish in that. I am thankful for that. Thanksgiving week here, boom, Alabama beat down by my Oklahoma Sooners. It's a great feeling, ladies and gentlemen. Hope is the word I would use for this Oklahoma Sooner program. We were dead. Not to be dramatic, but there was no life in this program a couple weeks ago after the Missouri loss. It was over. All was lost. And we are back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope. And here's why we have hope. Because the defense for the Oklahoma Sooners is here to stay. It is here to stay. People have been saying it all along, whether you wanted to believe them or not, that this defense for Oklahoma is legit, and they just needed an offense that wouldn't turn the ball over. And lo and behold, when the offense doesn't turn the ball over, this Oklahoma defense swarms you, suffocates you, forces turnovers, creates sacks, creates all sorts of havoc to where you can't do what you want to do. It is unreal. It was astonishing to watch last night. If you know me, I thought I watch every OU game, start to finish. I put myself through misery watching this Oklahoma football team all year. And I did it last night. I thought, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to sit there on the couch from start to finish and see what happens. And boy, did I. And I relished it. And I was smiling the entire time. Things were happening. I was shouting. I was hollering. It was exhilarating to watch Oklahoma absolutely tear apart Kalen DeBoer, Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Just start to finish, nonstop, relentless pressure from OU. The more physical team, straight up the better football team on the field. I'm not sure that's a sentence I would have ever said if Nick Saban was the head coach. And we'll get to Alabama here in a second, but this is about Oklahoma, ladies and gentlemen. This is about Oklahoma. This team, that's the potential, what we saw last night from Oklahoma. That is the potential. And I know some people are going to say, Alabama's a fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, are you correct? Possibly. However, Oklahoma suffocated them. I mean, they made them look that bad. Yes, OU hasn't been good all year. It's an absolute embarrassment from Alabama. But to be fair, OU played like they should have been playing all year. The defense was there. It's the same defense that's been playing all year. It's just they didn't have their backs against the wall all year, all game. The offense didn't hand the ball to the other team on the 20-yard line 4 times a game. That didn't happen last night. And when that doesn't happen, OU can pin their ears back and play Brent Venables' defense. And that's what happens. That's what you get from the OU Sooners. Now, congrats to OU. I'm very, very happy right now. It feels incredible. I honestly woke up this morning and I said, was that a dream? Did I really see what I saw last night? And ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you, it was not a dream. It was real life. And the good thing about real life is that it's real and it's not a dream. And the feelings you have from it are real. That's the thing about real life. Now, Alabama, you're in a tough spot. You know, a couple weeks ago, we got a letter from a fan that said, Alabama's all the way back. Roll Tide, baby. We are on top. We have never left, and we are here to stay. And ladies and gentlemen, what happened, Alabama? What happened? Not a good situation if you're an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. Not a good situation. You likely have exited the college football playoff talk. Kalen DeBoer looks confused. He got thoroughly outcoached. His game plan was, I'm not sure what, to be honest with you. They were trying to run the ball, Jalen Milroe. That didn't work. And then they continued to try and run the ball. All the things that were working for them, down the field passing game, over the middle of the field, and they didn't do that very much. Now, to be fair, OU's defensive line was in the backfield the entire night. I mean, the tackles, Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett for Alabama, they didn't have their best games. It's going to be a night they want to forget. But Alabama, you just got to hold your head up high. You got to hold your head up high, and you're probably not going to want to after the game that we watched last night. You got to get it under control. You got to figure some things out. But it's a dark, dark place, and here's why, ladies and gentlemen. 3 points is the least amount of points Alabama has scored in a football game in 20 years. 2 decades, folks. 2 decades. And we thought Kalen Bohr was going to come in here. This offense is going to be high flying. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's going to score 55 points a game. It's going to be relentless offense. Points, 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 points. And he goes in there and lays in almost a goose egg. 3 points. Not a touchdown was scored. Not a touchdown was scored. It was the most they have been beaten or down in an SEC football game since 2016. 8 years. That's the most they've lost by in an SEC game. That's the most they've even been down by in an SEC game. Unreal, unheard of. The program is probably burning to the ground right now. I'm not in with the Tuscaloosa folks, but we can get a line there. Oh, boom, it's ringing. What's going on down there in Tuscaloosa? Yeah, it's on fire, ladies and gentlemen. It is on fire, and I don't blame you. The city, we may take a stop there here in a couple weeks, and it may be burned to the ground. Just have some relief programs for them coming to your way. So if you know an Alabama fan, reach out to them and tell them, hey, it's okay. It is okay. We are here for you. Now, we will transition to the college football playoff outlook. This Alabama game had a huge impact. There's a lot going on with this college football playoff outlook. A lot of people throwing a lot of ideas out there. Who's in, who's out, who's going to make it, who's definitely not going to make it. There's not 12 teams that deserve to be in a 12-team playoff. We need to go back to 4, go back to 8, do whatever. My opening statement here, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get to what's above me here in a second. The idea that there's not 12 teams that deserve to make a 12-team playoff is astounding to me, okay? Because, and I think the disconnect is that people thought when we expanded to 12 teams that there would be magically 12 elite college football teams that are all equal, and there's just going to be 12 elite teams, okay? That was never going to happen. There weren't even 4 elite teams every year, folks. Never had that happened. The closest was maybe 2017. That was maybe the closest to 4 elite teams. And even then, I'm not sure I would say that. Okay. So the idea that 12 teams don't deserve to make a 12-team playoff, I think is based on the fact that we thought there were going to be 12 quote unquote elite teams, whatever definition of elite you want. I think people thought 12 teams meant 12 elite teams. Magically, there were going to be 12 of them. Never going to happen. That was never going to happen. Never. Okay. So those people think, well, now we have 12. There's not 12 people that deserve to be in a 12-team playoff. And I couldn't disagree more, folks, because 12 spots doesn't mean we're getting 12 elite or even really, really good football teams. Okay. We're getting 12 teams that are the top 12 in the country based on what they've done this year. And if you ask me, there are probably 15 or 16, 17 teams. Yes, some of them have 3 losses. But even a 3-loss Alabama team that did what they did last night could, and they have reason to say that they could still be a top 12 team. I know some people are going to hate that I said that, but it's possible. And it's not an outlandish thing to say. A South Carolina 3-loss team is definitely still in question, still in the conversation. An Indiana team that got blown out by Ohio State is still in the top 12 conversation. They're in the conversation because there's 12 teams, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying all 12 teams now have a chance to win the national championship. Not what I'm saying. There may be less teams than ever that have a chance to win a national championship, and it may just be Ohio State and Oregon, folks, and maybe Texas for some of you. I'm still in the camp of I'm not sure how much I believe in Texas. And folks, there's 12 teams. There are 12 teams that deserve a 10th, 11th, or 12th spot. That's the world we live in now, okay? This was always going to happen. There was always going to be not 12 elite teams, okay? People need to understand that and realize that 12 teams doesn't mean we're getting 12 elite teams. We're just getting the 12 teams they're handing us because there have to be 12 teams in the playoff. I can't explain it any simpler. There's 12 spots. There's going to be 12 teams. Therefore, there's 12 teams that deserve to be in the 12-team playoff, solely based on the fact that there's 12 spots. I'm not saying all 12 of those teams can win the national championship, okay? There may be 2 teams that can win the national championship. Now, however, the parity in college football this year is unlike any I've ever seen, okay? Now I'm young. Maybe we've seen it before. I don't think we have. The parity is so great that I think there are probably 8 or 9 teams that legitimately could win the national championship this year. I don't know who those 8 or 9 teams are. You could convince me that there's 15 teams, okay? You could. Now, I'm not sure I believe that yet, but I would listen to arguments. Okay? And I'm trying to be rational about this. I'm all for the 12-team playoff. I love what it's done in the season. I'm more invested in the games than I was last year, ladies and gentlemen. I am more invested. And I watched every game last year. I watched every game this year, and I'm more invested. Okay? And honestly, it gives us a lot to talk about. And I'm completely okay with that. Now, what's above me, Ian? What is this 9 spots, 1 spot? What does all this mean? I broke it down last night. I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, here's what the committee's going to do after an absolutely chaotic day of college football, mainly in the SEC. I think there's 9 spots in this green box that are locked up. I think you have Oregon. I think they're in the college football playoff, no matter what happens. I think they're in. You have Ohio State. I think they're in the college football playoff, no matter what happens. Notre Dame. I think they're in the college football playoff, no matter what happens. And by no matter what happens, I'm sitting here with 1 week left. Notre Dame could lose to USC, and I think they could drop out. Now, you're thinking, Ian, well, then why would they be in the 9 spots? Well, based on all the teams behind them, I'm not sure. I still think you could make the argument that Notre Dame should be in. So for right now, in the here and now, they're in. Georgia, I think you're locked in. You're going to the SEC championship game. You're locked in. Tennessee, they're in a great spot. They're locked in. Texas is locked in. Whether or not they beat Texas A&M or not, I still think they're high enough to where that loss isn't going to drop them out. They're in. Penn State, congrats to you guys. 1-point win against Minnesota. Good for you. You're in. SMU, you're in. And Miami, you're in. That's 9 spots. So that's 9 of the 12, I think, are locked into this college football playoff. That's 9 of the teams we're going to get. And honestly, you could convince me any of those 9 have reason to believe they could win the national championship. Okay? You could convince me that. Would I believe it? I'm not sure yet. Right below them, we have UNLV, Tulane, and Boise State. I have 1 spot next to their name because those are the top 3 group of 5 teams right now. And UNLV, Boise State, they're on a collision course for the Mountain West Championship game. If Boise State loses the Mountain West Championship game, folks, UNLV jumps above them and they're in over Boise State. But could UNLV jump Tulane if Tulane were to win the AAC championship? Okay, so I think of those 3 teams, we're only getting 1 in for the group of 5 champion. Okay, so you're going to have 1 spot there. That equates to 10 spots. We're down to 2 spots left, 11 and 12. So we have to go to the Big 12. Well, the Big 12 is going to get 1 in. We know that. Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, Kansas State, and Colorado. There's notion that the Big 12 is not getting a team in. And I couldn't disagree more with that. The Big 12 is getting a football team in, ladies and gentlemen. They're one of the 4 biggest conferences in the country. They are getting a team in, whether you like it or not, okay? So you have Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, Kansas State, or Colorado. It's one of those teams. So one of them gets a spot. So that's 10 spots that we have allocated, locked in, okay? And some of you say it's not locked in yet because they still have to win their football games. You are correct, okay? But as of this moment, this is what it looks like. These are the teams that are in the college football playoff. So you can start thinking who you would bet on, because there are bets out there probably, and who you would not bet on. So these are your 10 teams right here. And I know there's more than 10, but these are the 10, okay? So that leaves us with 1 spot. And you're thinking, 1 spot? Who's going to get that 1 spot? I've narrowed it down to these 6 teams that I think the committee is going to be judging or debating with. You got Alabama. I know, boo, Alabama. You got South Carolina, boo, South Carolina, SEC. You got Clemson, you got Indiana, you got A&M, and you got Ole Miss, okay? So of these 6 teams, I think the best team with the most obvious path is A&M, okay? If A&M wins the game against Texas next weekend, they are in the college football playoff. They are not. Let me preface this. The college football playoff committee is not going to leave out the SEC runner-up. They're not going to do that. It would be a PR fiasco. It would be a nightmare. They're not going to do that. So A&M has the best shot. They're the only one that can really control their destiny here, okay? and maybe that's what I should have said with these teams above me, is all of these teams control their destiny. In theory, okay, you win, you're basically in. You're basically in. I think Kansas State's the only one that wouldn't in the Big 12. But Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, and Colorado, if you win out, you're in. And same for the teams above them, okay? So Texas A&M, if they beat Texas, they're in the college football playoff. And then Alabama, South Carolina, Clemson, Indiana, Ole Miss, I think you're out. I think you're out. And some of you are going to fight me on this Indiana. But ladies and gentlemen, I think the committee is going to drop Indiana outside of the top 12, okay? And quite frankly, you'll see where I have Indiana in the what if poll here in a second. I'm not sure I could disagree with the committee dropping them out of the top 12. I'm not sure the offense showed enough. I thought the offense was going to be the strength of the team yesterday. Ended up being the defense, and they looked good. The defense looked good. I'll give them that. And they had two wonky plays where Ohio State scored on a punt return touchdown, and they gave them the ball on the 20-yard line, and Ohio State scored there. Boom, there's 14 points. You only lose by 10 now, okay? So I think in order of teams, of these teams above me that I think have the chance at that last spot, I think you got to go A&M, and then I think you have Indiana, and then I think you have the winner of South Carolina and Clemson as that third team. Alabama and Ole Miss, I think, are the teams with the longest shot at that last spot in the college football playoff. Now, if any of these teams just miraculously lose next week, Oregon against Washington, Ohio State against Michigan, although both I think are in, Notre Dame is probably the one that is most on the bubble here, I would say. If they lose to USC, I'm probably going to have Notre Dame out, but I don't think they're losing to USC. So it could be, I could have put Notre Dame in this group with these teams above me and said these teams have two spots, but I didn't, and I'm okay with that. So Alabama and Ole Miss, I think, have the longest shot at making that 12th spot. I right now, A&M's got the best shot because if they beat Texas, they are in. Then I think you go Indiana. If A&M loses, I think they're out. So then I think it is Indiana at that 12th spot, or South Carolina, Clemson winner. I hope that breakdown made sense. In my mind, there's one playoff spot left, and it's for one of these six teams above us, and I cannot wait to watch next weekend. All right, we're going to jump to my what if poll, week 14. Going to take a sip here out of the patented mug. Some of you think, Ian, why is it patented? How do you patent a mug? Well, I don't. Number 25 team in the what if poll, Colorado Buffaloes. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the defense. It looks suspect at best. Number 24 team, Kansas State Wildcats. You got a longer shot than Colorado because you have 3 losses in the Big 12. Colorado only has 2, but I think you're a better team than Colorado right now, so you're at number 24. BYU Cougars, fight. They fought yesterday against Arizona State. They're still in this playoff race because of the Big 12 getting one team in. Mizzou Tigers, with Brady Cook, they're a much better football team. Enough said. UNLV Rebels, long shot, but they have a chance. A&M, Iowa State, Florida, Ole Miss, Tulane. And some of you are thinking, what did this guy just throw up on my screen? What is this garbage that he threw up there? And ladies and gentlemen, I said it 3-4 weeks ago when DJ Lagway played. I said, he's really good. They look like a completely different football team. I really like what they do when DJ Lagway plays football. So I have them in the top 25 because when he plays football, they're a much better football team, offensively, defensively. Having a good quarterback like DJ Lagway impacts your team monumentally. Whatever the word is that I'm looking for, say it in your mind, and that's what I meant to say. So there's your 20th through the 16 teams in the what if poll. 15, we have the Clemson Tigers. Sure, I guess. 14, we have Arizona State Sun Devils. They are the team that I would pick to win the Big 12 right now. Alabama Crimson Tide at 13. South Carolina Gamecocks at 12. Boise State Broncos at 11. And some of you are thinking, Ian, how in the world is Alabama only at 13? That makes absolutely no sense. You are a crazy person. You are a lunatic. You are a liar. And I would say to you, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. However, Alabama still has that much talent on the field that they're probably a top 15 football team, okay? Calm down. Not that big of a deal. They're at number 13, right behind South Carolina, who's playing some of the best football of any team in the country right now, and that defense is not to be messed with. Clemson could be in hell this weekend, and that is not a prediction. That is just an observation. Top 10, here we go. I have Indiana at number 10 in the country right now. Um, what they showed in the first drive against Ohio State, and I know it's only one drive, there's something in there from that football team that just didn't happen the rest of the game. And kind of the game script went against them after those fast turnovers right after that first drive. And then the blocked punt. It did not go well for Indiana right there at the end of the first half. So there's still something in that football team that I believe in. So I have them at number 10. Number 9, we got the Miami Hurricanes. Cam Moore's just awesome. You got a guy that's on their team that's been in college for 35 years as a tight end, so he's fun to watch. Xavier Restrepo, all-time Miami leading receiver, I believe. The offense is awesome. Defense is very difficult to watch at times. Tennessee Volunteers, I think they're locked into the playoff right now, folks. SMU Mustangs, they're the team that I would bet on to win the ACC. I think they're better than Miami. I have them at number 7. Penn State Nittany Lions. Look, some people are going to gripe and complain about that because of the way they played against Minnesota. I happen to think Minnesota is a really good football team that has just had 7 one-score games that they happen to lose 4 of them. Minnesota's a good football team. Penn State went into their building and won. I got to give them credit for that. Top 5, we're just going to put them all up there. Texas at number 5, Georgia at number 4, Notre Dame at number 3, Fighting Irish. Ohio State Buckeyes at number 2, Oregon Ducks at number 1. Brief hiatus for Oregon, down to number 3 last week. Putting them back up there. They got a big game against a rival in Washington this weekend. But this is your top 5 right now, folks. I think these are the 5 best teams in the country right now with the way they're playing football. And now that I'm saying that, one of these teams is probably going to lose this weekend. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but one of them is probably going to lose. Just going to throw that out there and make sure everybody is aware that Oregon could lose, Ohio State could lose, Notre Dame could lose, Georgia could lose, Texas could lose. All of those games for these teams, whether they're double-digit favorites or not, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All of those teams could lose this weekend in rivalry weekend, which is glorious. Just absolutely phenomenal. Okay? Last thing up, ladies and gentlemen, muffins. And you're thinking, muffins? Why is Brent Venables above you? What is a muffin? What does this mean? Each week we give out a certified stud muffin to a team, a coach, a player, a fan base that had an outstanding performance in a gigantic football game. And it's going to none other than the man himself, Brent Venables, because what he did to Jalen Milroe in that Alabama offense needs to be told to you. Okay, so Jalen Milroe went 11 for 26. He had 164 passing yards, 3 interceptions. You're thinking that standard Jalen Milroe game through the air. On the ground, where you think Jalen Milroe would excel, he had 15 carries for 7 yards. Let me say that 15 carries for 7 yards for Jalen Milroe. This guy had about 3,000 rushing yards against LSU 2 weeks ago. How does he have 7 rushing yards? Congrats to Brent Venables. Oklahoma had 260 yards rushing, over 200 in the first half. Jackson Arnold threw the ball 11 times, and it didn't matter because they won by 21. Ryan Williams had 2 catches for 37 yards. Ryan Williams, superstar Ryan Williams, 17-year-old, 12-year-old, however old he is, Ryan Williams. Yeah, they had a true freshman on the other side for Oklahoma that followed him around the field the entire game and shut him down for the most part. Okay? And we'll end it with this, the drive chart for Alabama. Listen to this, folks. It is sadness. Punt, field goal, yay. Last good yay for Alabama. Punt, halftime. And you're thinking, okay, Alabama's going to come out of the half and do some things. Incorrect. Interception, return for a touchdown, punt, turnover on downs, interception. And that last interception, that was their last drive of the game. There were 7 minutes left in the football game at that time. They didn't get the ball back. Absolute masterclass by Oklahoma in Brent Venables. Congrats to the Sooners. Brent Venables gets a certified stud muffin. You deserve it. We love you here at the Ian Fritts Show. That's all I have in the show this week, guys. Stay tuned for the picks. Another winning week. 13-7 last week in the picks. We continue to win. And if you want to bet, follow our picks. We win money here at the Ian Fritts Show. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There it goes.